In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the current conditions and also diving into the upcoming storminess. We have major snowstorms on the way and also some severe weather. I want to just get this out there. Obviously, I don't sound too good right now. I am not feeling well at all. As of this morning, I feel completely awful, but we're still going to be making videos. As you guys know, I try my hardest to stick to the daily videos almost no matter what. It takes a lot to get me to not upload a video, so we are going to be still rolling with the punches and just making the videos anyway and just walking through, because the weather doesn't stop for sickness, you know what I mean? The weather is still going to be happening and we have to watch it closely. We are watching these areas for some severe weather starting out today and also over the next 3 days. These areas are going to be seeing some potential severe weather we need to watch very closely. We can see there's some lighter activity happening across a lot of your western states. It is extremely light. Now here we are taking a look at more of your precipitation typing in here, and we can see that there's some heavier precipitation out ahead of this low. The low is probably located somewhere up here. We see there is a bit of a cold front, warm front dynamic trying to set up. So we have this warm air surging in and a lot of storms flaring up with all of this activity in here. So we're seeing that happen. We are seeing likely some wintry precipitation later on this evening on the northwest side of things, so that will be also a factor. So let's just zoom into some of these different areas. There is not a whole lot to go over here on the current radar imagery, so we're probably going to just move past this pretty quickly. But as you can see, we do have plenty of this activity along kind of your western seaboard from Washington through Oregon into northern California here, mostly in the form of snowfall actually. And this is kind of coming to an end as we speak. And then obviously you have your bigger storm area here, where we'll kind of ignore all of these areas in between. I want to focus on the southern end of things because we can see where the cold air is playing a role here in kind of throwing in a cold front edge to this. So that is developing along this side of things. And we're seeing the warm air surge to the north in here. And you can see the storms actually moving northward in these areas. So it's no secret whatsoever that this is what we're seeing. And that's why we're going to be watching for potential severe weather. Mostly not today, but actually as we move towards tomorrow and even the next day. So that's going to be Wednesday the 15th into Thursday the 16th. That's going to be primarily when we're looking like at least a slight risk, maybe even worse there on the severe weather. Now let's go ahead and move on and talk about the modeled guidance. Now here we are taking a look at our European model, and as we get towards later on this evening into tonight, pretty much, we're going to be seeing our low here, a 986 millibar low pressure center actually, so a very strong low. The cold front here, and then probably more of a warm front dynamic in here, which again gives us this kind of cornered outlook with warmer air able to make its way into this area. Again, that northwest side of things, we're watching for snowfall to develop, and this is really the setup here for this entire storm system. We see that gets even worse and worse with that snowfall, especially as we reach into the overnight hours to about, let's call it maybe 12 a.m. to about 4 a.m. here is going to be the time frame that we're looking at right now. And we see extremely heavy snowfall throughout the Dakotas, a bit of Nebraska, Iowa, and even into Minnesota here. And we actually have blizzard warnings up for a lot of these areas as well. So that is worth noting also. We also have some snowfall with a low over Colorado here happening, so it's really going to be a far-stretching event of snowfall all the way up to these areas. As you can see, we're really just taking a look at multiple different areas seeing this snowfall. As we continue things on, we see that storm number 2 becomes the main story here. And if we're taking a look at the dynamics of things, this is really the look. We have our low here over Illinois, snowfall again on this northwestern edge of things. And then we see this cold front underneath, warm front out ahead. And again, we have this setup with surging warm air with cold air behind it. So this has been probably the most active severe weather winter I've seen since I've paid attention to weather. It has been a lot more like some spring months. I would say January and February acted a lot like a warmer March month is the best way I could put it. So that is how things have seemed to me. Let me know your perspective, though. I am interested what other folks are thinking. We can see that by the time we're reaching Friday afternoon, thunderstorm activity is going to be possible up and down the East Coast here as this cold front pulls through. We see our 991 low up here with the cold front swinging back. Very warm air surging out ahead of that cold front. So we're going to see probably strong winds from the south for a lot of these coastal areas with that swinging cold front rolling through. Definitely a setup for some early season thunderstorms along the east coast by this weekend. Saturday looks to be a bit colder here. That's going to be February 18th here along the eastern United States. Probably a bit of a warm up out west for the most part here. And we can see some storminess moving onshore for a lot of these areas. But we are seeing that there is some snowfall for the Rockies. So certainly going to be some extra activity happening out here. Certainly warmer than normal, but doesn't mean that it's going to be above freezing for those Rockies as they're dealing with their typical snowfall. We do see a bit of a minor clipper system. I wanted to mention this, that we definitely see some snowfall happening in these areas, and we're going to see in a second that it's going to move into the northeast as well. So let's just roll through with this. As you can see, we definitely see this take shape actually pretty much for these areas south of New England, and then we see some moderate to heavy snowfall happening here in New England. So potentially a bit of a snowfall setup there. And then as we can see, by time we're reaching about February 14th here, we see a very strong low taking place here with a lot of heavy snowfall stretching wide and far here on the northern end of things. I think this is certainly a very interesting setup around the 23rd through 25th time frame, but we're going to take it with a grain of salt as it is about 10 days out. Certainly not guaranteed by any means. It is the European model, which is typically more in sync with what's actually going to happen. But we need to take it with a bit of grain of salt since it is still very, very far out. Now, your total precipitation, we can see that the main trend here is going to be storms moving from the northwest down into the Rockies. Also, some of these moving their way into the Rockies from the south here. But also some rising storm systems across the Central Plains and into some of the more Ohio Valley areas. But really the eastern United States as a whole getting a little bit quieter here, as you can see. I'm going to try to see if black looks a little bit better here. It actually does, so we might stick with black. I've been thinking about this for a little while. I think this might be the actual way to go because I feel like we can see a lot better this way, but definitely some storms rising up in these areas from the northwest down into the Rockies as well, and then up through the southwest like I mentioned. Look at how much better you can see that. That's amazing. Now, total snowfall here, as you can see, a wide plethora of snowfall expected for a lot of these areas out west and for the north central United States here. So up and down the Cascades, the Sierra Nevadas, and the Rockies. And then for these northern plain areas, we're also seeing extremely heavy snowfall events. Anywhere in here is looking at multiple feet of snowfall. Same story for the Rockies here as activity kind of regains traction. We're going to see these rising storms doing this type of a motion, and again, on that northwest side of those storms, we do see heavy snowfall. So over the course of multiple snowstorms, we do end up at about 2 to 3 feet here for South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and even into Michigan there. So I think that's also worth noting, with more moderate to light amounts here for the Northeast. No real surprise there, though. Now let's take a look at the upcoming temperature pattern as a whole here. I definitely want to focus in on this as we do just have clearly very far stretching warm air for a lot of your central and eastern United States, and then really cold air overall out west. But this has been the story all winter time long. So the next time that we're going to see a potential shift in this is by the time we're taking a look at about the 17th, 16th into the 17th. We see a lot of this cold air pushing further eastward here. So we see these kind of expanding. Definitely a cold front somewhere in here. And this warm air gets very potent as it gets squeezed there along the eastern seaboard. Definitely that makes things a little bit more potent, more intense, and probably very strong winds from the south on a day like this. But as this cold front rolls through, it's all going to kind of explosively interact likely. So sometime around Friday into Saturday, that's that same cold front we were taking a look at with potential thunderstorms up and down the East Coast here, because as you have the very strong warm air working its way up the East Coast and a cold front swinging right behind that, so winds hitting it from the side like this, that's never a really good setup, and definitely creates some unsafe weather as far as thunderstorms and potentially tornadic activity are concerned. Now, as we just keep going, we get just super brief cool down, and then right away we almost seem to switch right back to warmth in the east. So the warmth lasts long, the cold lasts about 24 hours max, and then we see the warmth just continue to return. Cold air working its way down the western seaboard here, and in general the western half of the nation. and that has really been the trend all winter long. Again, we see a bit of cold air able to work its way in potentially by the time we're taking a look at approximately the 26th here. So some for the northeastern United States here, as you can see, but still this warmth is kind of putting up a fight here on the southern end of things. So certainly not over with the warmth by any means. It doesn't appear, and that warmth seems to make advancement over the coming days here, and we see most of the east dealing with some warmth with some cold for the very far northern areas in the east. That is the look right now. Now, I am sick, so this is going to be a little bit of a shorter video. Hopefully, I start to heal up very quickly and we can get back to normal videos. I know I sound terrible. We were dealing with the computer issues. It's just one thing after another. You know how life can be. But we're going to roll with the punches, like I always say, and continue to make these videos for you guys because the weather is not stopping for anybody, and I certainly need to be able to give you guys that information. So be sure to subscribe, as we do upload every single day. Sickness or health, as you can tell, and be sure to hit the bell icon as well if you want daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Also, like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.